Hi, I'm Nikk Effingham. I'm a lecturer in philosophy at the University of Birmingham, and today I'm going to talk about the philosophy of time. In the first segment, I'm going to talk about the existence of the past and the future. So we should start with the idea that time and space, we standardly think, we intuitively think, that they're different in certain ways. For instance, we think that time has a direction. It goes from past to the future. Maybe if Doctor Who is possible, maybe if you could go back in time, you could go the other way, but we at least think that would be unusual and that would be strange. Time definitely has a direction of moving forwards. That's utterly unlike space. There's left and there's right, there's up and there's down, but it's not as if one of these directions is special in any way. Maybe you might think that up and down is because of gravity, but at the end of the day, you can move any which way in space that you care for. These things are different. Time and space are different. There's other ways that time and space are intuitively thought of as being different. For instance, with space, we think that the things around us exist no matter where they are. So I'm in Birmingham at the minute, but we think that London exists, and we think that the Eiffel Tower exists. Or further away, we think that the Andromeda Galaxy exists, or indeed the furthest reaches of the universe, the stars burning away. All of these things exist no matter how far away they are from here. But with time, intuitively, standardly, we seem to think that that isn't the case. So things which are away from us in time rather than space, we tend to think don't exist. So take Genghis Khan with his Mongolian warlords and his Mongolian horde. They existed in the 1200s and they don't exist now. They used to exist, but they don't exist now. Similarly for the future. If outposts on Mars come to exist in the year 2300 AD, whilst they will exist, we don't think the outposts on Mars exist at the moment. We think that existence, when it comes to time, is all present-based. The things that exist presently exist. In philosophy, there's actually a debate about whether that standard view of time is actually representative of what we call metaphysical reality or ontological reality. Ontology is the study of what exists. So in your ontology, in your list of things which exist, should you include the past and present things? The presentist is one position. The presentist believes that only the presently existing things exist. They have that standard intuitive view. They believe that it's correct. They believe that that's how the world is. To exist is to presently exist. And yep, the dinosaurs don't exist. The Mongolian warlords back in the 1200s, they don't exist. The outposts on Mars, they don't exist. Whereas you, me, Donald Trump, we all exist. We presently exist. But there's other views, competing views. For instance, there's eternalism. Eternalism says that things from all times exist. So from the past, the present, and the future, all of these things exist. So the dinosaurs do exist. The Mongolian warlords do exist. The outposts on Mars, if they happen to come about in the future, then they do exist. The eternalist admits that they don't exist now, but they say that that's not important. They think that existing now is only the same as existing here. So Birmingham exists here, the Eiffel Tower does not exist here. The Andromeda Galaxy does not exist here, but it still gets to exist. It's just not near me. It's not near me in space. The eternalist thinks the same thing's going on with things in the past and the future. They don't exist now, but they still get to exist. They're temporally distant, but that doesn't impugn their status as existing things. So that's the two main theories. There's actually a third theory, glowing block theory, that says that the past and present things exist, but the future's not here yet. It's like a block that's glowing across time. But I won't really talk about that, but it's worth knowing about. There's a few other deviant views, but the two main ones are Presentism and Eternalism. Now, whilst I've said that Presentism is the intuitive view, it actually turns out that a lot of academics, a lot of philosophers, and a lot of physicists, they think that it's eternalism which is true. So, for instance, Albert Einstein thought that eternalism was true. He even once remarked at someone's funeral to the wife of the deceased that it wasn't so bad because at least the husband still existed, just back in the past, not nearby, and she should take some comfort in that. He believed that all of these things existed at all times. We could get stuck into the physical reasons for believing it, the physics of why you should be an eternalist, but that actually isn't what we're here for. This is a talk on philosophy. So let's talk about the philosophical reasons, and I'll give you two. Here's two philosophical reasons for thinking that presentism, the intuitive view, you should give up on that and you should be an eternalist. So the first argument talks about sentences that talk about the relations between things that exist at different times. So we talked about Genghis Khan. Let's take somebody else, like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is probably taller than Genghis Khan. He was from the 1200s. He's probably a pretty short guy in comparison to Donald Trump. So Genghis Khan is shorter than Donald Trump is a true sentence. But how can it be true if those things don't exist? How can it be true that we're drawing these comparisons between something that does exist and is over 6 foot tall, Donald Trump on the one hand, and something that doesn't exist at all, Genghis Khan on the other hand? For the sentence to be true, for us to have these cross-temporal relations, some people think that that means that the two things both have to exist. You can only say that one thing is taller than the other if they both exist. So that's a reason to be an eternalist. Similarly, we get into the second argument. And it's a little bit similar. It's the truth-making argument. We believe that there's many things which are true about the past. So dinosaurs existed. Genghis Khan was a Mongolian warlord. We think that those things are true. So what makes them true? We tend to think that things aren't just true for no reason whatsoever. There has to be something about the world itself which makes them true. If you're an eternalist, it's easy to see what makes these statements true. What makes the statement that dinosaurs existed true? Well, it's that the dinosaurs exist and they're a certain distance from you, a temporal distance from you back in the past. What makes it true that dinosaurs exist is just the same sort of things that makes it true that the Andromeda Galaxy exists. Why does the Andromeda Galaxy exist? Because it exists and it's a certain distance away from us. Why do dinosaurs exist? Because they exist and they're a certain temporal distance away from us. Similarly for Genghis Khan was a warlord. So that's made true by the fact that he exists back in the past and he is still a warlord back in the past. And we could say similar things maybe about the future. There will be outposts on Mars. That's a true sentence if it turns out to be true, and a false sentence if it turns out to be false. And whether it's true or false is made true or false by how the future actually is as we sit here and you listen to this lecture. Some presentists try and come back on that. They try and think that there's other reasons for thinking these things are true. But at the end of the day, they have a bit of a problem. So imagine that presentism was true, that all that existed was what presently existed. Now imagine that the universe was substantially different. Imagine that something happened in the past, like the dinosaurs existing that happened in our world, but it didn't happen. It was all faked. Imagine that those strange Americans who think the dinosaurs are fake, they've got it right. They were right. All these fossils have been planted. And the execution of the fakery is so good, is so perfect, that the world we've ended up with is exactly the same as it would be if the dinosaurs really had existed. Well, those two worlds would be the same. So the world where the dinosaurs did exist, and we've got to the present moment, is exactly the same as the world where the dinosaurs didn't exist, and it's all been a put-up job. They're exactly the same. Well, if those worlds are exactly the same, then it looks like what's true at them has to be the same if the only things that exist at those worlds are the presently existing things. So that's a good reason to believe in eternalism, say the philosophers.